At exactly 12:00 on January 1st, 2025, all of Seattle seemed to hold its breath. The sound of glass shattering rang out in the grand foyer of the Edgewater House, sharp enough to cut through the final thumping bass drop of the Calvin Harris remix. My mother's Baccarat champagne flute slipped from Lauren Whitford's manicured fingers and free fell onto the Calacatta marble imported from Carrara, exploding into 1,000 glittering shards that looked like snowfall in the middle of a Puget Sound winter. She crumpled right after, knees hitting first, her gold-sequined Ellie Saab gown pooling around her like melted sunlight. "We're so fucked," my sister Sloane screamed in her purest Bellevue spoiled brat voice, the one she usually hid from Instagram lenses. Her shriek echoed under the 9-meter glass ceiling, where the $500,000 Swarovski chandeliers blinked like they were mocking the entire family. My father, Grant Whitford, stood frozen in the middle of the crowd, face the color of the concrete he bragged about using to build Seattle itself. His eyes were locked on the iPad mini propped on a sterling silver stand in the center of the black marble bar. The screen blazed blood red, Helvetica Neue Bold 120 PT, Grant and Hudson Whitford, wire fraud, tax evasion, breach of fiduciary duty, irrevocable trust, $42 million diverted to Singapore and Wyoming LLCs, reported to IRS Criminal Investigation Division, 12/31/2024, 21:47 PST, courtesy of AQ. 3 minutes earlier, at exactly 11:57 p.m. I had been standing barefoot on the damp teak deck of a private island off San Juan, the Pacific wind whipping my hair, carrying salt and cedar smoke from the outdoor fireplace. I held a full flute of Cristal 2014, tiny bubbles clinging to the glass like baby stars. I took a sip. The champagne detonated on my tongue, sweet and razor sharp. Above us, the sky erupted into blooms of gold, violet, blood red, each $150,000 firework launched from a private yacht 200 meters offshore. Maya, my best friend, stood beside me, phone in slow motion mode, whispering loud enough for our group of 12 to hear. 3-minute countdown until they open the suitcase, Avi. I smiled, the first real smile in years. Perfect timing. Right now, inside the Edgewater House, the most powerful 120 people in the Pacific Northwest were watching the Whitford empire fracture in real time. There was the unicorn startup CEO who'd IPO'd last month, the Seahawks quarterback nursing a 30-year scotch, the federal senator in her wine-red gown, mouth gaping like a landed fish. Nobody moved. Only my mother's ragged breathing and Sloane repeating like a broken record, "We're fucked, we're fucked, we're so fucked." Hudson, my brother, the 2-time Forbes 30 under 30, lunged at the iPad like he could smash the truth away, but it was locked in kiosk mode and flipped to the next slide on its own. A screenshot of his internal email to the Singapore advisor titled, "Finalize Avery removal before 12/31, no traces." Then the wire transfer receipts for the full $42 million from the irrevocable trust our grandparents had set up to be split evenly when each grandchild turned 30. Mine. The money they plan to steal tonight in front of all of Seattle and call it tough love. My name is Avery Quinn Whitford, 29 years old, owner of a glass-blowing studio in Georgetown, Seattle. The one my family calls the fire addict, the Harvard dropout who plays with 2,200-degree ovens, the one they scheduled for public humiliation tonight, planning to force me to sign away every inheritance right in exchange for an $85,000 a year content creator gig at their company. They thought I was still the girl who sobbed at the Christmas table at 17 when I said I wanted to study glass instead of an MBA. They had no idea that for the past 4 years, I had quietly built a different furnace, hotter, more dangerous than any glory hole I'd ever stood in front of. And tonight, I just dropped that furnace into the middle of their living room. On San Juan, the final firework burst into a massive red heart against the black sky. Maya turned to me, eyes shining like fresh Murano. "They opened it," she said, scrolling through the flood of stories already hitting feeds. Sloan screaming, Mom unconscious, Dad looking like he'd seen a ghost. I raised my glass, clinking it gently against every flute held by the people who chose me over the Whitford billions. "To the people who tried to blow me out," I said, voice light as the Pacific wind. "Turns out I was the furnace all along." I drained the crystal. It still tasted sweet, but this time it tasted like blood. "My name is Avery Quinn Whitford, but you can call me Avery Quinn. The Whitford surname is something I've been trying to scrub off my skin the way I scrub glass dust from my clothes after a long day at the furnace." 29 years old, I'm a glass blower in Georgetown, Seattle, where the old industrial warehouses have turned into art hubs and overpriced coffee. My studio, Firetide Glassworks, is a 4,000 square foot warehouse full of roaring furnaces, 3-meter steel blowpipes, and vessels that shimmer like melted rainbows. Last year, I made $2.1 million selling pieces to collectors in Tokyo, New York, and the tech billionaire wives of Bellevue. This year, I'm on track for $4.8 million. Not bad for a hobby, right? But to my family, the Whitfords, the kings of real estate software, the company that powers Amazon, Microsoft, and Zillow, I'm nothing but a stain. A daughter who dropped Harvard MBA to chase fire and play with broken glass. My father, Grant Whitford, stood on the TEDx stage in 2018 bragging that every Whitford is a strategic genius. Then he looked straight at me in the front row and added, soft as silk, "Except one, perhaps still finding herself." The entire room laughed. I was 18, cheeks burning, gripping the handmade glass bracelet on my wrist until it cut my palm. My mother, Lauren Whitford, is the undisputed queen of Bellevue society. She throws million-dollar galas, lands on the cover of Seattle Met with the perfect smile and golden bob. But behind mansion doors, she calls my studio the money incinerator and asks when I'll grow out of this rebellious phase and come work for Whitford Properties. "You could do social media, Avery. At least it's respectable." Respectable, to her, means sitting in a glass office in South Lake Union posting Instagram stories about property management software instead of standing in front of 2,200-degree heat turning sand into art. My brother Hudson Whitford, 35, COO and 2-time Forbes 30 Under 30 finance genius. The only message he sent me in all of 2023 after I turned down their job offer, "Avi, don't keep embarrassing the family." Hudson has never stepped foot in my studio, never held one of my pieces, even the deep Puget Sound blue vase I sent him for his birthday, market value $28,000. He FedExed it back with a note, "Thanks, but not our vibe." My sister Sloan Whitford Knox, 32, M&A lawyer at a top-tier downtown firm, 400K Instagram followers, the queen of deals, always in designer and posting quotes like, "Hustle hard, shine harder." When I landed a local paper feature for selling a $300,000 collection to a Dubai client, Sloan texted, "Congrats, but don't oversell it. People will think we deal in cheap decor." Cheap. That collection took me 4 months, 2 second-degree burns, and 1 near collapse from heat exhaustion. My family didn't just belittle me. They built an entire campaign to erase me from the great Whitford narrative. They wanted me to be the failed daughter, to make their perfection shine brighter. Every Christmas dinner, every family gathering, the same story. Avery had so much potential, but she chose fire over a future. As if my future wasn't the vessels I blow from sand and flame, the London Gallery contracts, the standing MoMA invitation. I used to think I could change them. Used to hope one day they'd walk into my studio, see the vessels hanging like captured stars, and say, "We're proud of you." But 4 years ago, when Dad accidentally lost the trust documents I needed for taxes, I started digging. I hired a forensic accounting firm in Tacoma, and piece by piece the truth surfaced. emails, transfers, forged papers. They didn't just want me quiet, they wanted me gone. Tonight, December 31st, 2024, they planned to finish the job. They thought I'd show up at the Edgewater House, bow my head in front of 120 VIPs, and sign away everything. They thought I was still fragile as unannealed glass. They were wrong. Glass, when heated and cooled just right, is stronger than steel. And me? I am the furnace. It was a Monday afternoon of Seattle's signature drizzle with commitment issues rain. I was in the studio, hands coated in cobalt frit powder, eyes locked on the vessel spinning slowly on the blowpipe. The furnace behind me roared at 1900 degrees, the heat so intense my safety glasses fogged in waves. My phone buzzed on the steel bench, lighting up with words that nearly made me drop the pipe. Mom, honey, we're hosting the biggest New Year's gala ever at the new house on the water. Black tie, 120 guests, press from Architectural Digest and Forbes. We need you here early, sweetie, like the 23rd. It's time the family shows a united front. Please, love you. I read it 3 times. The word please hadn't appeared in my mother's text since I was 16. Love you was a decade-old memory. My heart raced the way it did the first time I opened a glory hole at Pilchuck when I was an 18-year-old dreamer. Maybe this time would be different. I told myself that, even as a tiny voice in my head sneered, "Yeah, right." Still, I shut down the furnace, peeled off my leather apron, and ran up to the loft where I kept the gifts I'd never dared send. I pulled out the rainbow vessel I'd spent 3 summer months blowing. Paper-thin walls shifting from sea green to twilight violet to sunset orange, like the rare, perfect Seattle sky. I named it Reprieve, Reconciliation. Market value, $42,000. I wrapped it in white tissue, placed it in a handcrafted cedar box, tied it with a Puget Sound blue ribbon. This time, I would hand it to Dad myself. December 23, I drove my midlight silver Tesla Model S over the 520 bridge, across a fog-shrouded Lake Washington. Radio played Last Christmas. I killed it instantly, no extra drama needed. Bellevue appeared like a rich person Christmas postcard. The 3-story tree at the Bravern blazing, Range Rovers lined up at Nordstrom, mansions outlined in cold white LEDs. The Edgewater House sat at the end of its private road, perched on a cliff above Puget Sound. The entire facade low iron glass staring straight at the snow-capped Olympic range. I parked beside 6 Bentleys and Lambos belonging to future guests, clutching the cedar box like a live grenade. The front door opened before I could ring. Maria, the Filipina housekeeper who'd been with us 20 years, stood there in her cream turtleneck sweater. "Mija," she squealed, pulling me into a hug that smelled of Chanel No. 5 and fresh sugar cookies. "You're home. So big now." Maria was the only person in that house who had ever visited my studio, who had held my vessels and whispered, "Hermosa, like you." She led me through the foyer where crews were installing yet another baccarat chandelier, each crystal the size of an orange, while the 18-foot noble fir filled the air with cedar and pine. My mother appeared at the end of the hall in white cashmere and tailored trousers, golden bob perfect as always. "Avery, you made it," she said lightly, eyes scanning my frit-dusted Blundstones, fire-tight hoodie, ripped jeans. No hug, just a society smile. "Guest suite upstairs. Your old room is being converted into a wellness space. Peloton and infrared sauna, you understand." My old room, where I used to tape Chihuly posters, where I hid a mini furnace under the bed to blow my first clumsy bits of glass. Now a gym. I swallowed the familiar ache. "Got it, Mom." I clutched the box tighter. I brought a gift for Dad. She glanced at the cedar box, one brow arched. "Oh, cute." "Leave it for now. Dad's in a meeting with Hudson and investors. Don't disturb." Then she click-clacked away on Louboutins across the marble, leaving me alone in the cavernous, icy foyer. I stood there a long time, listening to the muffled laughter drifting from the study at the end of the hall. Dad's deep, authoritative baritone, Hudson's slick ad man cadence, Sloane's razor laugh. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, really, but as I passed the half-closed door, one sentence from my father stopped me cold. We do it on New Year's Eve. Full intervention. She signs the relinquishment or she's out for good. I pressed myself against the wall, heart hammering like a glory hole on boost. And then I heard the entire plan they had scripted for me, the early Christmas present they intended to deliver at midnight. The reprieve in my arms suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. I stood outside the 5-centimeter-thick walnut study door, breathing so shallow I barely existed. Inside, the gas fireplace cast orange light across the glass walls, throwing 5 shadows around the steel and glass conference table. I recognized every voice before I saw a face. My father, Grant Whitford, sat at the head in a white shirt sleeves rolled up, Macallan 25 in hand. We do it on the 31st, full intervention, in front of everyone. She signs the relinquishment or she's cut off for good, clean cut. Hudson tapped his Mont Blanc on an iPad Pro. Timing is perfect. All of Seattle tech and investment will be there. Forbes, GeekWire, Architectural Digest. We turn it into a beautiful story. The Whitfords unite for their wayward daughter's future. PR already has the piece drafted, from glass blowing to growth hacking. Very touching. Sloane's stiletto clicked on the oak floor as she smirked. She won't dare refuse in front of 120 people. Social pressure is Bellevue's deadliest weapon. Mom cries a little, Dad gives the tough love speech, and she signs like a good puppy. My mother, Lauren, sat beside Dad, toying with her 8-carat diamond. Her voice was gala-sweet. She's still soft. We just offer her the content creator job, $85,000, full benefits, office with Lakeview. She'll think it's mercy. Then we move the full $42 million from the irrevocable trust to Singapore before January 2nd. Wyoming LLC is ready. No trace. My blood turned to ice. $42 million? My share of the trust my grandmother created the day I was born. Equal split at 30. I wasn't 30 yet. They were going to steal it in public and call it rescue. The family's Singapore banking advisor, a silver-haired man, spoke through the big screen on Zoom. We've completed 3 rounds through Wyoming Shells and Labuan. IRS will never find it without an internal whistleblower. And Avery, she knows nothing about finance. Hudson laughed the same laugh he used when closing $70 million Amazon deals. Yeah, she's busy blowing $40,000 vases. Rich kid's side hustle. Mom, did you see her latest story? Sweating in front of a red-hot furnace, bragging about her new work. Looks like a plumber. Sloane scrolled, snorting. $40,000 a vase, and she's proud. Meanwhile, I just closed a $400 million fund in Dubai. Pathetic. Dad sipped his whiskey, voice low and final. She's the only stain on the Whitford brand. After the 31st, we erase her. Her studio, auctioned for charity. Belongings to storage. If she refuses to sign, we still have Plan B. Leak the fake rehab story to the press. Addiction, the works. The money's in Singapore anyway. Mom sighed the pitying sigh she reserved for kids who didn't get into the Ivies. Poor thing. But we have to do it for the family name. She'll thank us later. I stood with my back against the freezing wall, the gift box trembling like it might shatter. Reprieve, reconciliation, now sounded like a sick joke. $42 million stolen because I chose fire over PowerPoint. They didn't just want my money, they wanted my identity, wanted to turn me into Seattle's punchline. I heard chairs shift. Someone was coming out. I backed away, silence on the marble, ran the length of the hall past the kitchen where Maria was shaping gingerbread, past the 18-foot glittering tree, past million-dollar abstracts, up the spiral stairs into the guest suite they'd prepared, king bed in sterile white, no trace of the old Avery. I locked the door, collapsed on the floor, clutching the box. Tears didn't fall. Only something inside my chest burned hotter than any furnace I'd ever faced. I pulled out my phone and sent one line to Maya, the woman who'd been helping me gather evidence for 4 years. Avery, they're planning to kill me on 12/31. Activate everything. Seen instantly. Maya, on it. Welcome to the burn, babe. I looked at Reprieve through the tissue. The tree's LED lights hit it, throwing 7 rainbows across the wall like it was mocking my naivete. Tonight, I had brought reconciliation. On December 31, I would bring fire. Seattle rain that night wasn't drizzle anymore. It was a storm. Fat drops hammered the Tesla's windshield like bullets, wipers on max still losing the fight. I was flying south on 520 at 2 a.m., headlights carving tunnels through the downpour, knuckles white on the wheel. In the passenger seat, the cedar box holding Reprieve sat motionless, a silent, unexploded bomb. I don't even remember exactly how I left the Edgewater House. One second I was reading Maya's reply, the next I was stuffing clothes into a Patagonia duffel, grabbing my keys from the baccarat bowl by the door. I passed the study, door still ajar, their laughter spilling out like they were at a private party that didn't include me. I didn't cry. I just slipped out the back, through the garage, hit the roller door. Rain slapped my face ice cold. Now I was tearing toward Georgetown, the only fortress I had left. Radio dead, just rain and my heartbeat pounding the same rhythm. Burn, burn, burn. I almost dropped the vessel running down the stairs earlier. Hands shaking so hard, the box slipped. I caught it inches from the final step, heart leaping into my throat. Reprieve. Reconciliation. Now it sounded obscene. Red light on Rainier Avenue. I stopped, dropped my forehead to the wheel, and finally sobbed. No sound, just choking gasps swallowed by the storm. I called Maya on speaker. Hello? Her voice wide awake despite the hour. Maya. That was all I got out before I broke like a kid. I'm here, Avi. Open the studio gate. I'm standing in the rain like a drowned dog. I reached Georgetown at 2:27 a.m. The old roll-up door screeched open. Maya stood under the awning in a yellow raincoat, hair plastered, holding 2 steaming 7 Roasters cups. She yanked me into a hug the second I stepped out. Inside the studio, the auxiliary furnace still glowed at 800 degrees from the evening session, the familiar heat and smell of molten glass snapping me halfway back to life. I set the cedar box on the steel table, opened it. Reprieve lay there, 7 colors still heartbreakingly beautiful. 42 million, Maya. They moved it all. On the 31st, they're going to make me sign it away in front of Seattle. Maya sipped her coffee, eyes cold as fresh glass. I know. I saw Hudson's latest email to the Singapore guy at 11:42 p.m. They think I sleep? I looked at her, the woman who'd been with me since day 1 of hiring the forensic accountants, who faked an internship to copy files from the family servers. 4 years. 4 years building an atomic bomb out of paper trails, emails, wire receipts, and steel patience. I thought I could still save them, I whispered. I brought a gift. Maya put a hand on my shoulder. You tried. Now it's their turn to burn. I wiped my face, breathed in silica and burnt coffee. The furnace behind us hissed like an ally. Full activation? I asked. Level 10, Maya answered, flipping open her laptop. Tax attorney on standby in Belltown. Hermes suitcase commissioned at the Pioneer Square shop. Delivery the 30th. iPad mini jailbroken. 5-minute slideshow. Kiosk loop forever. IRS whistleblower form submitted last night. Final confirmation pending. I looked around the studio, shelves of glowing vessels under LEDs, blowpipes hanging in perfect rows, the main furnace waiting for the next gather. Everything I'd built with my own scarred hands, they called a side hustle. I lifted Reprieve, turned it slowly. Light fractured into rainbows after the storm. On the 31st, I'm giving them something far prettier, I said. Maya grinned, the first real grin of the night. Fireworks, bitch. Rain hammered the tin roof. I stood between furnace and best friend, feeling like I was inside my own crucible. 4 years of preparation, 7 days left, 1 night to end it all. I set reprieve back in the box, closed the lid. Reconciliation was dead. Time for fire to speak. Rain still growled over Georgetown's tin roofs, but inside the studio it already felt like hell's forge. Maya and I flipped on every white LED, turning 4,000 square feet into a secret courtroom. In the north corner behind pallets of oak display shelves was a fake steel wall. I tapped 3 times, placed my thumb on the hidden fingerprint scanner under red frit dust. The 8-centimeter thick doors swung open without a sound. The vault. No one knew it existed, not even studio staff. Inside, a 6 by 8 foot room. Fireproof steel walls rated for 2 hours. Constant 18 degrees Celsius and 35% humidity. Centerpiece, a surplus Boeing military safe. Army green, nearly 900 pounds. I spun the combination. Left 34, right 12, left 7. Yanked the handle. The beast opened. 4 years of my life fit neatly inside. I pulled out each item and laid it on the 12-foot steel table like I was displaying a new collection, only the medium this time was betrayal. 1. Folder number 1. Trust Forensics. 3 black leather binders, 680 pages total. Original 1996 irrevocable trust signed by Grandma Evelyn Whitford, equal 4-way split to Hudson, Sloan, Avery, and Cousin Carter at age 30. Forged March 2021 amendment, Grandma's signature photoshopped, my name crossed out in red pen, Hudson's handwriting, Avery, out, mental health clause. Wire records for the full $42 million moved through 7 layers. Wells Fargo Seattle, Wyoming Shell, Singapore Private Bank, Labuan Fund. Every transfer stamped, confidential, family office only. 2. Folder number 2, emails and chats. 2 4TB SSDs, Maya's handwritten labels, Hudson's arrogance, and Lauren's tears. 4,700 internal emails pulled from Whitford property servers via the keylogger Maya planted during her 2021 summer internship. 431-page Zalo chat between Hudson and Mr. Tan, Private Banking Singapore. Hudson, 11/3/2024. Make sure Avery never sees a cent after 12/31. Use the art kit excuse. Mr. Tan, done. Wyoming LLC now owns 100% of her share. You're clean. Hudson, perfect. She'll be too busy blowing glass to notice. I messaged screenshots of Mom to Sloan. If she fights, leak the fake rehab story to page 6. We have the photos ready. 3. Folder #3. Whistleblower packet. Pre-sealed FedEx envelope addressed to IRS Criminal Investigation Division, Seattle Field Office. Fully completed Form 211, signed anonymously. Concerned heir #3. 38 pages of appendices, every page blockchain hashed for undeniable proof. Blood red USB inside labeled Play Me, full 4K. 4. And finally, the thing I looked at least, my own financial folder. 2023 tax return, Firetide Glassworks LLC. Gross revenue $2,104,880. Net profit after tax $1.41 million. 2024 projection already contracted $4.78 million, including a London solo show and a capsule collection in talks with Hermes. All in separate accounts untouched by family money. I never bragged. I never needed their approval. Maya sat on the rolling chair, opened her 16-inch MacBook Pro. Missing exactly one last thing, she said evenly. Grant's final electronic signature on the closing transfer. He signed it yesterday at 9:12 p.m. via DocuSign. Just pulled the original file. She spun the screen. Dad's scrawled digital signature glowed under the line. I hereby remove Avery Quinn Whitford as beneficiary for cause. Pattern of reckless behavior and substance abuse. I stared until my eyes stung. reckless behavior, substance abuse. They invented an entire sick narrative to justify stealing my $42 million. I picked up the red USB, turned it over in my fingers. Tomorrow I meet the tax attorney, I said. Suitcase delivers the 30th. On the 31st at 11:30 p.m., it arrives at their door. Maya nodded, eyes bright as molten glass. Final flourish? Want to add one little detail for fun? I smiled, the first real smile since leaving Bellevue. Add it. Make the final slideshow slide a quote. I typed, "You tried to blow me out. Turns out I was the furnace all along." AQ whooped, the sound echoing off steel walls. Chef's kiss. Go sleep, glass girl. 7 days left. I spun the safe shut, 3 heavy clicks like hammer on mandrel. 7 days, 42 million, 1 night. I killed the vault lights, stepped out, pulled the steel door closed behind me. Outside, the furnace still purred at 800 degrees, waiting. Fire never sleeps. December 24, Belltown, 10 a.m. I walked into the tax attorney's office on the 19th floor of a nameless glass tower on 2nd Avenue. No signage, just a steel door and a camera. Elliot Park, former counsel to unicorn startups and one of my collectors, stood to shake my hand. Perfect gray suit, eyes red from no sleep. 42 million offshore, 75% fraud penalty plus compounded interest. If IRS accepts the full file, they'll owe almost $78 million in fines alone, he said without greeting. I don't want the fines, I answered. I want them to burn. Elliot smiled for the first time. You'll get both. 3 hours later, every document was rescanned, e-signed, blockchain stamped. Elliot kept originals in his bank vault. Copies went into the Hermes suitcase already in production. December 25. Pioneer Square Leather Atelier. I met Louis, the craftsman who makes bags for Rihanna and half the Seahawks roster. On his bench sat the authentic 1923 Hermes Haute Couture I'd bought from a Paris collector for $68,000. Black box calfskin, palladium hardware. I need a secret lining, I told him, and a precise 8.7-inch slot for an iPad mini. Luis raised an eyebrow, but didn't ask. 25 grand cash on the table bought silence. He welded a thin steel plate inside, lined it with black silk, added a magnetic lock. The iPad would sit flush, screen up, impossible to remove once the suitcase was closed. December 26. Top hacker on Capitol Hill. A 23-year-old silver-haired genius named Juno sat in an RGB-lit apartment and jailbroke the iPad mini in 11 minutes flat. Installed permanent kiosk mode, 5-minute slideshow loop, impossible to stop without my Face ID, and formatting required that same Face ID. Final slide, white text on black, 200p. You tried to blow me out. Turns out I was the furnace all along. AQ. Juno grinned when I sent 15 grand in crypto. Merry fucking Christmas, Queen. December 27, Island rental. I called Kenmore Air Charters. I need an entire compound on Orcas Island for the 31st, max 15 people, no budget. 45 minutes later, the contract was signed. Full West Sound estate, 22 acres, glass house overlooking the strait, private helipad, heated infinity pool, 80-foot yacht on standby for fireworks. 2 Canalist chefs, 1 Canon mixologist, my favorite Seattle indie band. Total, $312,000 wired, non-refundable. I blasted the group chat of my 12 ride-or-die Pilchuck-era friends. 1231 Orcas. Bring swimsuits and free souls. The old family is dead. December 28th. Final letter. I sat in the studio at 3 a.m. under one small task lamp. In front of me, 300 GSM cotton paper the color of billionaire wedding invitations. I took my Mont Blanc, an invisible UV ink that only glows under blacklight. Grant, Lauren, Hudson, Sloan. You taught me blood doesn't mean love. Tonight, you'll learn fire isn't just pretty, it bites back. The originals are already with IRS and federal court. What you're about to open is only ash. This is goodbye forever. Don't look for me. I vanished long ago. Avery Quinn, no longer Whitford. I wrote slowly, every invisible stroke ready to blaze under the UV strips I'd already hidden in the suitcase lining. Folded it thrice, slipped it into a matching envelope, sealed with black wax stamped AQ. Laid it on the silk prototype lining Louise had messengered over. December 29, final inspection. The finished Hermes arrived at 11 p.m., black as a starless sky, exactly 11.4 kilograms loaded. I tested the magnetic lock. Clack, final as a judge's gavel. Opened it 90 degrees. iPad auto woke. Slideshow began instantly. No power button, no escape. Just 300 seconds of truth that would burn forever. December 30, departure. I loaded 6 crates of personal gear into the Tesla, drove to Boeing Field Private Terminal. Maya rode shotgun, cradling the suitcase like a baby. 11:30 p.m. on the 31st, a black-suited courier would deliver it to the Edgewater House with a card, "From AQ, don't open until midnight." December 31, Orcas Island, 5 p.m. The helicopter touched down on perfect green lawn. Pacific wind whipped my hair. My people were already there, champagne chilling, outdoor fire roaring. I handed the courier the suitcase, checked my watch. 6 hours, 30 minutes to go. I stood on the cliff edge staring at black water. 7 days of hell traded for 1 night of heaven. Maya raised her glass. "To the furnace," she said. "To the furnace," 12 voices echoed. I smiled. 7 days done, 1 night left for all of Seattle to learn what real fire looks like. 8 p.m. The Edgewater House, Bellevue. The cliffside mansion blazed like a landed spaceship over Puget Sound. The entire low iron glass facade reflected white LEDs and distant Olympic peaks dusted in snow. Twin rows of gas torches lined the crimson carpet from helipad to private beach. White Tux valets parked Rivian R1Ts, Bentley Bentegas, a McLaren 720S belonging to the Seahawks quarterback on his new $200 million contract. Inside, the most beautiful 120 people in the Pacific Northwest shimmered. Women in sequins and feathers, men in bespoke London tuxedos. DJ Zedd behind a glass booth dropping a Clarity remix that rattled the floor. 3 bars, 1 pouring only Dom Pérignon 2008 magnums, 1 serving 50-year Japanese whiskey, 1 mixing glowing UV cocktails. Overhead, the 2-ton baccarat chandelier hung like a fallen galaxy. Lauren Whitford in gold Oscar de la Renta greeted every guest with her practiced radiance. "Biggest party Seattle's ever seen," she repeated like a prayer. Grant held court in the cigar lounge, Cohiba Behike in hand, bragging about the upcoming IPO. Hudson glad-handed, Forbes 30 under 30 grin on full blast. Sloan live-streamed to 400K viewers, caption glowing, "Last night of 2024 with the people who matter most. #WhitfordNY." None of them knew the person who mattered most was somewhere else. 8 p.m. West Sound Estate, Orcas Island. The final helicopter landed at 7:58 p.m., carrying 6 cases of champagne and a Canalys chef. I stepped onto the grass in a white silk cape, wind snapping it like a sail. My 12 best friends were already there. Maya, Juno the hacker, Louis the leather artist, 3 Pilchuck glassblowers, 2 photographers, a Berlin VJ, and Jonah, the ex my family forced me to dump in 2018 because he wasn't Whitford material. Just 12 of us, but the laughter filled 22 acres. Infinity pool glowing turquoise, outdoor fire roaring, the 80-foot yacht anchored 100 meters offshore, ready to launch $200,000 worth of fireworks at midnight. Jonah stood beside me, crystal in hand, eyes never leaving my face. "You sure?" he asked one last time. I nodded. Never been more sure. 11:27 p.m. The Edgewater House music slowed, mood shifted to countdown prep. Guests drifted toward the terrace. Sloan was mid-pose with influencers when the doorbell rang. A courier in black suit and white gloves wheeled in a small cart. On it, the black Hermes Haute à Courroie, palladium locks gleaming. Card attached, from AQ. Don't open until midnight. Lauren squealed, "Oh my God, she remembered us after all." Sloan smirked, snatched the tag. "Probably another ugly vase. Let me speed this up." She yanked a zipper. The lid flipped to 90 degrees, internal LEDs auto-lit. The iPad mini sat centered, black screen waking instantly. 11:29 p.m., Orcas Island. We stood in a circle on the lawn, phones linked to the live stream from Juno's hidden suitcase camera. The big outdoor screen showed every detail in real time. 11:30 p.m., the Edgewater House. The iPad began its slideshow. Slide 1, blood red text. Grant Whitford and Hudson Whitford, wire fraud, tax evasion, trust breach, 42 million USD. Slide 2, wire receipts routing 42 million through Wyoming LLCs to Singapore. Slide 3, Zallo screenshot of Hudson. She'll be too busy blowing glass to notice, haha. Slide 4, Grant's DocuSign signature removing me for cause, substance abuse. Slide 5, IRS Form 211 stamped received 12/31/2024, 21:47 PST. Music died. 120 statues. Only wind against glass. Sloan screamed first. "What the fuck?" Lauren staggered, champagne flute shattering. 2 billionaire wives caught her. Hudson lunged at the iPad. Kiosk mode, no off button. 5-minute loop restarted automatically. Phones rose like guns. 11:31 p.m., Orcas Island. We popped champagne. Jonah wrapped arms around me from behind. "You did it," he whispered. I just smiled, watching the big screen. Dad ghost white, Sloan shrieking, Mom collapsing. 11:55 p.m., the Edgewater House. No one moved to the terrace anymore. They formed a circle, cameras high. Final slide appeared. "You tried to blow me out." "Turns out I was the furnace all along," AQ Lauren sobbed. Hudson smashed the iPad on the floor. Shatterproof screen still glowed, still looping. 12 a.m., Orcas Island. The yacht fired the first shell. The sky exploded into gold, violet, blood-red blooms. We jumped, screamed, cried, laughed. Jonah kissed me under the blast. I closed my eyes, tasting salt wind and gunpowder. 12:01 a.m., the Edgewater House. Distant Bellevue fireworks echoed, but inside only crying and breaking glass. Sloan screamed into her phone. "Avery, you psycho!" Lauren passed out cold. Hudson punched a wall. Grant stood motionless, staring at the final line. 12:02 a.m., Orcas Island. I raised my crystal to the sky, voice carrying across the island, to the girl who chose fire and burned the whole fucking house down. 12 voices roared back. Fireworks kept blooming. I laughed until I cried. 2 parties. 1 reckoning. Only one still standing. Fireworks still thundered overhead, massive blooms cascading like golden rain. I stood on the cliff edge, wind snapping my white cape, holding my brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. New number, new SIM, known to exactly 12 humans. The screen had been blowing up since 11:56. 11:56:47, Sloan calling. 11:56:59, Hudson calling. 11:57:03, Mom calling. 11:57:10, Dad calling. I held the phone up for everyone to see. Jonah whistled. Maya maxed the speaker volume. I accepted the last one. Dad. Grant Whitford's roar tore through the Orcas night before I even spoke. "Avery Quinn Whitford, you crazy bitch! You just destroyed this family!" He was hoarse, background chaos of Mom wailing and Sloane screaming, "Turn it off!" on loop. I stayed silent, let him burn himself out. The whole island went quiet, except fireworks and his ragged breathing. "She's actually insane," Mom's voice sobbing. "Avery, baby, shut it down. Please, everyone's filming. I can't survive this." Hudson seized the phone, voice ice cold. "Listen, you little bitch. I'll hire the best lawyers in the country. You'll go to prison for defamation, fraud, everything I can dream up. You want war? I'll give you war." Sloane again, snot in tears. "You've been jealous of me your whole life, haven't you? You did this because I have everything, and you just have your stupid vases? I'll make sure you're penniless." I laughed. The sound carried over the island louder than the explosions. Jonah tightened his arms around my waist. Maya raised her glass like a toast. I brought the phone to my lips, voice soft as Pacific breeze. "Listen close, because I'm only saying this once." Dead silence on their end, except Mom's hiccuping sobs and Hudson's furious breathing. "Tonight, the Whitford name died. Not wounded, not dormant, dead. I have every email, every wire, every forged signature. IRS has the originals. Seattle has copies. No negotiation, no fixing this. No more daughter, no more sister, no more safety net." Mom screamed, "Avery, I'll have grandchildren. You can't do this to me." Sloane, "You're going to hell." Hudson, Arctic, $25 million right now. I'll wire it the second you tell IRS to withdraw. I checked the time, 11:59:20. $25 million, I repeated, honey sweet. You don't have $25 million to give me anymore. Singapore accounts frozen at 21:47 tonight. Check your mail. Gasps. Mom hit the floor again. Hudson slammed something. Dad wrestled the phone back, voice cracking for the first time in my life. "Avery, Daddy's sorry. Come home. We'll explain." I looked up. 10 seconds to midnight. "No," I said. Clear, cold, final. "You're strangers now, and strangers don't get second chances." I killed speaker. The island erupted in cheers. Jonah kissed me as the final shell burst into a massive red heart. 12:01 a.m., January 1, 2025. I pulled the SIM, held it a second, then hurled it into the Pacific. The tiny chip flashed once under fireworks and vanished forever into black waves. Maya handed me fresh crystal. I raised it high. "To the Whitfords who tried to blow me out," I shouted, and learned the hard way I was the furnace all along. 12 voices roared back. Fireworks kept blooming. I drank until champagne burned my throat like fire. Somewhere, 70 miles south, an empire crumbled. Here on this island, a woman was reborn. Avery Quinn Whitford died with 2024. Avery Quinn just started living. January 8, 2025, Federal Mail knocked on the Edgewater House at 7:12 a.m. The postal worker in Navy handed over a thick envelope blazing red. U.S. Department of the Treasury, Internal Revenue Service. Grant signed with shaking hands. Inside, notice of deficiency. Unreported offshore income, $42 million. Fraud penalty, 75% plus compounded interest. Total due, $78,412,665.22. Payment deadline, 90 days. Lauren fainted for the third time in a week. This time, nobody caught her. January 14, Amazon sent a one-line email. Due to recent regulatory and ongoing regulatory concerns regarding Whitford Properties leadership, we are terminating the $300 million enterprise contract effective immediately. $300 million gone in 8 seconds. Parent company stock, NASDAQ, WHTF, down 42% in a day. Someone cried in the elevator. January 27, Hudson was escorted out of the South Lake Union Tower at 9 a.m. A beefy security guard carried a single cardboard box, a Yeti tumbler, and a torn business card. LinkedIn updated to open to new opportunities and stayed that way 4 straight months. No calls came. February 3, Sloan was served divorce papers by her quarterback husband at King County Superior Court. 87 pages of exhibits, including Singapore transfers and a lawyer note. Marital property includes hidden offshore assets. Her accounts frozen instantly. Her G-Wagon towed from the country club lot while she ate kale salad with the girls who suddenly wouldn't meet her eyes. February 19, Grandma Evelyn, Evie Whitford, 89, still ramrod straight in her Medina Ranch living room, mailed handwritten letters to the 4 of them. One line, "You stole from blood. Blood remembers." Attached, newly notarized codicil. To Grant, Lauren, Hudson, and Sloan Whitford. Intentionally omitted. The entire $1.2 billion estate, real estate, shares, foundation, redirected to distant cousins and 3 animal rescue nonprofits. Not 1 penny for her son or the golden grandchildren. March Whitford property signs came down from every downtown tower. Nighttime cranes, floodlights, workers slicing giant metal letters. TikTok slow motion montages set to Another One Bites the Dust hit 28 million views. April 9, the Edgewater House listed at $38 million, 45% off the 2024 appraised $69 million. Listing photos still showed the champagne-stained marble from New Year's Eve. Fine print, motivated seller, as is condition. Buyers circled like vultures, lowballing just to brag they bought the Whitford bankruptcy house. May I got a text from an unknown number while blowing a huge vessel in the new Brooklyn studio. More on that soon. Just a photo. Grant Whitford in line at a Bellevue Starbucks, gray hoodie, dark circles, holding a tall drip, no milk, no driver, no bodyguard. Caption from the stranger who sent it, "Karma tastes like burnt Pike Place." Lauren appeared on page 6, former Seattle socialites spotted using coupon at Whole Foods. Photo, old pajamas, messy hair, clutching a $2 egg coupon. 3 million views in 24 hours. Hudson moved into a 2-bedroom in Renton, drove a 2012 Civic. Sloan flew to a Tulum healing retreat and never came back. Her Instagram went private, 11 followers left. Grandma Evie sent me a thick card via her attorney, handwriting still fierce. "You did what I never had the courage to do. The furnace runs in your blood too. E.W." Inside, keys to a Manhattan penthouse I never knew existed. Seattle changed in 120 days. Whitford vanished from the skyline. Parties stopped name-dropping them. Invitations stopped going to the old address. People didn't say the Whitford Empire fell in one night. They said the Whitford Empire was slow-roasted in public and it was gorgeous. In my new studio on the East River, I just smiled whenever another update pinged. I didn't need to read them all. I watched it live on New Year's Eve. Fire is prettiest when it burns slow. September 2026, Brooklyn, New York. I moved to New York on a gray September day when East River wind already carried winter's bite. My new 4,200 square foot Greenpoint loft, former brewery, 18-foot ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows staring at the Manhattan skyline, became the new studio. 2 brand new 3,000-liter gas furnaces humming softly in the corner. Rent paid 5 years in advance by a Chelsea gallery that wouldn't return my emails 6 months earlier. They called 9 days after New Year's. Elena Voss, director of Gallery Voss & Co. on West 22nd, flew from New York to Seattle just to stand in the ashes of the Whitford name on every front page. She found me through an art forum piece titled "The Glassblower Who Burned Down a Real Estate Empire on New Year's Eve." She walked into my old Georgetown studio in 12-centimeter Louboutins, unfazed by frit dust and broken glass. "Exclusive representation. 3 years. Name your price," she said at the door. I asked only one thing. "Are you afraid of fire?" Elena smiled. I'm afraid of people who won't light it. Contract signed the following week. First solo show titled Rebirth opened September 18, 2026. 42 pieces. $42 million they stole from me. I made exactly 42 vessels and sculptures, each with an intentional crack, healed in 24-karat gold using a kintsugi glass technique I invented. Every crack was a year I begged them to love me. Every gold vein was a year I learned to love myself. Opening night, the gallery was mobbed from 6 p.m. Collectors from Tokyo, London, Dubai lined the block. An anonymous Qatar buyer took the largest, Phoenix Eye, 6 feet tall, black to blazing orange, at $280,000 in the 17th minute. All 42 pieces sold in exactly 20 minutes. One night total, $11.4 million. I stood in the corner in a simple black silk dress, champagne in hand, watching people who once ignored me fight with paddles. No one called me Whitford anymore, just Avery Quinn. November 3rd, 2026, a thick envelope arrived overnight from Scottsdale, Arizona. Familiar handwriting on the front, Grant Whitford. I didn't open it. I took a fat black Sharpie and wrote across the front in giant letters, refused, returned to sender, and dropped it in the corner mailbox on 28th Street myself. That was the last time that name tried to touch me. December 2, first snow of the season in New York. I charged the first new furnace in the Brooklyn studio, 38 pieces for a 2027 show already sold out from sketches alone. The main furnace hit 2,150 degrees, roaring like a freed beast. I stood at the glory hole in white protective gear, half-face shield, watching red molten glass through the peephole. Outside, the East River wore a thin blanket of snow. Manhattan glowed across the water like another furnace, bigger, colder. I killed every studio light except the furnace glow and the white snow reflection. I lifted my shield, let 2,000-degree heat slap my face like an old lover's embrace. I whispered, just loud enough for me and the fire to hear. I stopped asking to sit at your table the day I learned how to build my own furnace. The furnace hit cone 10. I closed the door, through the steel latch. 18-hour cycle began. I stepped onto the balcony, snow wind biting my cheeks. My old phone had been powered off since New Year's Eve, dead in a drawer somewhere. No old numbers, no family, no past. Avery Quinn Whitford died the night of December 31, 2024, along with the empire that bore her name. She died in fire, and from the ashes, Avery Quinn was born. Glassblower, no lineage, no chains, never looking back. Snow fell heavier. I held out my hand, let flakes melt on the palms still hot from the furnace. Fire and ice, destruction and rebirth, all I ever needed. I smiled at New York, at myself, at the girl who once begged for love from people incapable of it. That door burned to cinders long ago. Now I have an entire new furnace, and this time I control the temperature.